morning. My name is Richard Wexler, and this is Caring in America, the podcast for caregivers and care recipients. So, like I do on every episode, folks, who am I? Why am I doing this? Wind the clock back about almost 20 years, 19 years. I'm working in the software industry, minding my own business, married later, two small kids, one 11, one 7, all four parents alive. We think they're doing well. In the summer of '05, we start getting phone calls. They're not doing well. They're very ill. Our life is about to change. Like most Americans, we haven't talked about this. We're not prepared. We're about to enter this new phase of our life that's going to last for 14 years until the final parent passes away at 96 in 2019. So go back about 16, 17 years, realized I could barely spell the word care, left what I was doing in the software industry, started my company Points of Life, started reading anything I could get my hands on, eventually become a national expert in the subject matter, and start educating people. And have done so all over the country. About a year ago, want to reach even more people and start the podcast, and that is our hope. Got a special episode for you today. We're going to be talking with Paul Dilks in a couple minutes. I'm going to introduce him right now. He's been navigating seniors through the reverse mortgage process for almost 20 years, since '06. He works with elder law attorneys, financial advisors, and other referral partners. And he's found that experience does matter when helping seniors through this process. Education matters as well. And he's found a lot of unique experiences adding to the education and the different benefits and hindrances the reverse mortgage process can create. Paul lives in Washington Township, is married with two adult children, and in his spare time, he's active in the local Knights of Columbus and also the coordinator of the Kathy McGee Memorial Holiday Meals Program, a program that delivers 400 plus warm meals on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter to the seniors, the elderly, the disabled, and the shut-ins throughout Gloucester County. And a little tidbit, Paul was also a morning radio personality, playing music of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Are you there, Paul?
I sure am, and thank you for having me, Richard. It is a very unique opportunity, and I want to thank you for allowing me to come on your show.
Sure, you're very welcome. So I'm going to start at the beginning with the real simple question. Maybe it's simple, maybe it's not. What's a reverse mortgage?
A reverse mortgage, many times, is a mechanism for people to remain in their home for the rest of their life if they choose, and if many times if when someone retires, if they're retiring only on Social Security and they own a home, many times they don't get to enjoy life. They're living month to month many times, especially if they don't have savings. And I don't have to tell you what's happened over probably the last 15 to 20 years. Retirement savings are becoming less and less prevalent in people's lives. You're retiring without a pension. If you're retiring on Social Security, I don't care who you are, you very well may be struggling. And the reverse mortgage enables you to get just potentially a little extra income in order to maintain a better quality of life.
Very interesting. And kind of along those lines, and I'm sure you've heard a million different reasons why people are thinking about this, but are there some common reasons? So I like to put together a scenario. Let's make a couple. They're 80 years old. They live someplace in the country. We'll name him Bill. We'll name her Shirley. So Bill and Shirley are having a conversation. Maybe they've heard this through friends about a reverse mortgage. Are there common reasons that you've found that people think about this and do this?
I'll tell you what, one of the best reverse mortgages that I ever did was someone in their late 70s. And they always wanted to go to Ireland. And they had family there, and they never had the opportunity. And nor did they have the income or the savings in order to do so. And reverse mortgage to the rescue because they were capable of going. This is a great story. They took out the reverse mortgage exclusively to take a trip to Ireland for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, they decided to stay an additional 2 weeks. And they had the time of their lives. They called me when they got back, and they were so grateful that they had this opportunity that they felt didn't exist. So there are many reasons why people do a reverse mortgage. That's one of my favorite stories. And another story was someone in their late 70s. And I'll tell you, he didn't need a reverse mortgage according to him. However, but he did the reverse mortgage just as a safety net. His prized possession was a 1979 Buick boat. And I don't know the name of the boat. I mean, I don't know the name of the car, but it was a monster. And that was his prized possession. He washed it every week. Maintained it well. It looked brand new out of the showroom. And that was his prized possession. About 2 months after he closed, someone sideswiped him and and totaled the car. They were only going to give him $500 for the car.
Wow.
So you know what? And so insurance was only going to give him $500. It wasn't worth anything in the eyes of insurance.
Sure.
So he went out. He called me up right after, about a week after the accident. Says thank you because that safety net came through for me. I was capable of going buying another car. So you never know the circumstances, and there's plenty of circumstances where people may need to pay for continuance of care, home care. The situation of someone in their early 80s and a couple, and all of a sudden the one of them has a stroke. And I don't care. In retirement planning, no one, not many people plan for a non-recurring life event like that. And if care is needed at home, you can utilize the reverse mortgage for their care at home while they recover from the stroke. So there are many, many unique features of a reverse mortgage that can be a lifeline, an absolute lifeline.
That's fantastic information. Obviously, with what we're talking about here, a lot of times we are talking about that simple little four-letter word care that isn't simple and it can be huge. And obviously, one of the biggest issues is paying for care. Like I know, you probably, if you were to survey people over 50 in this country, 90+% are going to say as they age, they want to stay in the home. And as you're talking about, for a lot of folks, the savings isn't there. The Social Security is only so much. But I also liked what you just brought up that people need to understand, and I hope my listeners will get this. From what you're saying, it sounds like you can use the proceeds from a reverse mortgage for so many different things, like that wonderful lifetime trip. Maybe it is a new car, an old car, restoration, and certainly for care. Let me ask you some of the nitty bitty questions. So, is there a certain age you have to be to qualify for a reverse mortgage?
Well, yes, the HUD guidelines. This is a government insured loan, by the way. The HUD guidelines require you to be 62 years of age. Now, there are some unique, there have been some proprietary products that have come to market where you can, where if your home value is over 700,000 and you can obtain a proprietary reverse mortgage at the age of 55. And those are very unique loans. A lot of times, what you'll find in those situations, it's a husband and wife. Maybe the husband is in their 60s and the spouse is in their 50s. You have the ability to, and their home value is higher. You have the ability to do that reverse mortgage, and so that is something that we look at.
So, with that, the question, if a couple is in their 60s and that couple that I referred to, Bill and Shirley, are 80, is one couple going to get more money based on their age than the other couple?
Absolutely. What we do is we lend you a percentage of the equity based upon your age. The older you are, the more you get, and that's an actuarial formula. And we I don't have access to that actual formula. All we do is input the information in our program, and that program basically gives us the capabilities.
So, in the years you've been doing this, what are some of the upper amounts from a dollar perspective you have seen people get as far as the proceeds from this mortgage?
Well, a lot of times, based upon the lending of equity, based upon your age, many times people want to pay off an existing mortgage, and I I try to steer people away from taking all of the money because a lot of times they don't need all of the money. And you're paying, if you were to take out all of the money, you're paying interest on that whole lump sum. So the less you borrow up front, basically, the less interest you're going to is the less interest you're going to pay. So I always tell people take what you need because you're paying interest on a huge lump sum potentially for no reason.
Interesting.
So, and one of the best features about a reverse mortgage is it can act as an annuity. If you don't take out all the money, you get a benefit because your line of credit grows at the interest rate that is on the note. So, so if you have $100,000 line of credit, after 1 year, based upon the interest rate, your line of credit is grown based upon that interest rate. So that's a very, very attractive feature about this loan. It actually acts as an annuity at that point. There's an annuity feature to this loan. So I can make an argument that everyone at the age of 62 should have a reverse mortgage for that reason. Because heaven forbid, someone has a family member, either the husband or wife has a stroke at the age of 85 and they have a line of credit. They had a line of credit at $100,000 and they didn't need it. They just have it as a safety net. At the age of 85, that $100,000 line of credit may be well over $250,000. So all of a sudden, they've given themselves a significant, and that's regardless of value. Let's say their home value is only 200 and they have a line of credit worth 250. They effectively may have just hit the lottery. So there is a lot of unique features in this loan.
So let me pick up on that. So this couple we have, Bill and Shirley, they're both around 80, and Bill falls and breaks his hip. They've never thought about a reverse mortgage. So does it really make sense to wait until they're 80 and take this out? Or if I'm understanding you along the lines of what you just have just been talking about, does it actually make sense to have done something more from a planning perspective before he fell?
Absolutely, and that's what we're trying. That's what the industry is trying to create, utilizing this as a financial planning tool. I, in that situation, it would have been more advantageous for them to take out the reverse mortgage at the age of 62. And let's say they, at age 62, let's say they still had $25,000 left on their mortgage, and did the reverse mortgage, and they still had the ability to make payments. Continue to make your payments, and because every dollar that you make gets put back on the line of credit, growing at the rate that's on the note. So that's also a nice feature about the loan. A reverse mortgage is set up where you don't have to make payments. But if you do make payments, there is a benefit. There is a significant benefit because every payment you make gets added into the line of credit that grows at the interest rate that's on the note.
So let's talk about that. And you know, I've been involved in reverse mortgages with some clients, not like you, but this thought process, and you just brought it up. What do you mean we don't have to make payments? How does that work? Everything has to be paid for. So when does this eventually get paid? I mean, what are you talking about, Paul?
Well, it's paid upon the sale of the home or when the home is no longer your primary residence for 12 months. That's when um, that's when the loan effectively becomes due. And you're asked to sell the home and keep whatever remaining equity is still there. Now, how a reverse mortgage works is um, you don't have to make a payment. That is correct. And however, interest accrues on the loan. I'm going to give a broad example. Let's say the interest rate's at 7%, and you borrowed 100,000. Then at the end of 1 year, you would owe $107,000. So that's how a reverse mortgage works. However, if you didn't utilize the money and you didn't owe any money and you had $100,000 line, you get the same benefit of $107,000. $7,000 grows on the loan, whether or not you owe the money or you want to have future access to the money.
Wow. Wow. And let me ask you a question, and I think I know the answer, but correct me if I'm wrong. Let's go back to that couple that are about 80 years old. Poor Bill, I'm giving him different things that are happening to this poor gentleman. Let's say he has dementia. Let's say that dementia is getting worse, and Shirley's been taking care of him at home. But it really makes sense to move Bill to a memory community where professionals can work with him. They have a reverse mortgage. He's out of the house now. She's still there. Can they still use the proceeds to help pay for the cost at the memory facility?
Absolutely. All that matters is one person resides in the home. That reverse mortgage, it's a last to die loan, and as long as one person, I'll tell you a story of you're gonna. This is probably one of the worst stories I've ever done for in a reverse mortgage situation, and it was a couple in their early 80s, and similar situation where he was suffering from dementia and also was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She had power of attorney and over him. Thankfully, they had a good elder law attorney who set up the power of attorney long before the diagnosis, and so he gets a bladder infection and gets and walks into a hospital. Since he's non-communicative and and can't talk, they put him on an IV and they ruptured his bladder. So all of a sudden, the man walks into a hospital, gets wheeled into a nursing home. They immediately had to apply for Medicaid and things, and unfortunately, Medicaid took all of his income and with left her with $220 of his income, plus she had her own. Now they had debts, they had a mortgage, and she couldn't do it. She basically um, could no longer live. She had less than $100 after all her expenses were paid for her house in order to live. So reverse mortgage to the rescue. We paid off her mortgage and all of her existing debt, and let her live comfortably. And let her live comfortably while he was in the nursing home.
Wow.
So those are real life situations. That was probably one of the most difficult reverse mortgages that I've ever had to do. But thankfully, you hate to say you become someone's hero at the end of certain situations, but that woman was so grateful. She was crying at closing about all of the stress that I just eliminated out of her life.
That is a fantastic story. As we're kind of getting close to wrapping up, but I want to ask you a tougher question. I've seen, and I'm sure you've been through this. So that same couple, Bill and Shirley, they're around 80. They have a couple kids. Let's say their son is, we'll put him in his early 50s. And he hears about the fact that mom and dad are going to get a reverse mortgage. And the son, all of his life, well, wait a minute. That equity is for me. I mean, that's my inheritance. What are you guys doing? That's crazy. Have you been involved in situations like that? And if you have, what would you say to the family? What would you say to the son?
I get involved in that all of the time, and I put it right back on the children, and a legacy a legacy is never an asset. A legacy is always how you're remembered. And if all you remember at the end of your parents' life is that they struggled, and the reverse mortgage can eliminate that struggle, guess what? It's not only it's not only for you, it's for them, because you're relieving your anxiety and your stress as they eliminate their anxiety and stress. So a legacy is never an asset. Never an asset. A legacy is how you're remembered. And I tell kids that all of the time. If you go to bed at night wondering how your parents are going to do it in the next 12 months, and a reverse mortgage can eliminate that anxiety and stress, guess what? That's all that matters.
That's a great comeback, and I like the way you handle that, folks. I mean, it happens, and you want to look within your own family. Do you think you have a son, daughter that may have some of these objections? That advice that Paul just gave was fantastic. I mean, we age. We're aging. That's a reality. A lot of us, unfortunately, are going to need care. But as we've talked about when we started this conversation, there's a lot of other reasons you may want to do a reverse mortgage. Like we talked about, a great trip. Maybe you want to help a grandchild with their education, college, trade school, whatever it may be. There's a lot of ways you can use that money. What Paul's been giving is some fantastic advice. As we do get ready to wrap up, sir, please give us, if you'd like, some contact information, phone number, email, website, whatever you'd like to give out.
It's easiest. I do business via cell phone. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And that number is 609-685-3736. And thankfully, we're licensed to originate in all 50 states. So you're dealing with a bank, which is rock solid. The bank has been in existence since the early 1800s. So
What's the name of the bank?
there's something to be said for dealing with a very stable bank, and that's WSFS.
No, that's great information. We'll have this online as well. And I really thank Paul for coming on this morning. This is a lot of fantastic information. Again, whatever you may use those proceeds for, we talk a lot about care. And here in that situation where the son or the daughter, okay, this is going to be really tough for mom or dad. And you may live 500 miles away, 20 miles away, 10 states away. What's the plan for mom and dad and them being able to get that care coming in the home, or as we talked about, one of them maybe in an assisted living memory community, the other one's still in the home. A lot of things to think about, folks. As I talk about on every episode, if you want to reach out to me, you have a question, you have a comment, you're an expert in the senior care, elder care community, the email where you can get a hold of me, eldered2023 at gmail.com. So I want to thank Paul again. This has been a great conversation. And as I say on every episode, folks, until we talk again, have yourself an awesome day.